Thank you very much for the introduction. And even though we're passing our 10,000th attendee at Fujitsu World Tour, for me, it's very fitting that that person actually ends up being in India. Because India is probably the most exciting market that Fujitsu is currently investing in at this point in time. I think the Indian market for Fujitsu has been something that we have largely untapped, and we have not brought our best potential yet. But it's really exciting for me to be leading the organization now and really tapping into this massive potential. Fujitsu is starting to learn the great ways that India is approaching its evolution and its drive to be one of the leading economies of the world. In the last 18 months, Fujitsu in India has more than doubled its revenues. And in this half that we just closed in September, we have actually grown 67% compared to the same period last year. We see this market as a fantastic opportunity to really showcase what we can do in India. So the theme today really is about the human-centric innovation in action. And what I want to talk about in my keynote is really some of the customer stories that we are taking. Some of the things that we would like to try and bring into the Indian market, to excite our clients, to go on a journey with our clients, to really show them what's possible in terms of transforming their businesses. So I'll start, first of all, with one of the key stories that we have. We worked with the airline industry for a while. And one of the things that the airline industry is challenged with is that basically over the course of 15 years, the airline industry practically doubles every 10 to 15 years. Airbus as a company had to transform their business models in ways that they didn't imagine a decade before. One of the most fundamental changes in that is rather than being a capital acquisition, airplanes actually become an asset that has to be serviced and run in the air. Airline companies like Air India or Jet Airways or whatever are buying planes in a way that they never bought before. They want to buy from companies that can keep their airlines in the air in the most sustainable way and make sure that the maintenance on their airlines hits the highest possible safety standards. Back in 2012, Airbus had to track on a daily basis about 1.2 million items of inventory that were in action. As they saw their business growing, they turned to Fujitsu and say, look, this is actually going at an unprecedented scale. The amount of data that we gather off airplanes in flight in order to ensure the safety, in order to ensure the efficiency, in order to ensure the optimum fuel consumption, in order to ensure the minimum ecological impact on the planet, is data that we have to gather in an unprecedented way. How can Fujitsu help with that? We help them really visualize their supply chain on an end-to-end basis and look at every facet of the way that they put their planes in the air. We worked with them to come up with a solution that essentially targeted at a very small granularity all the key essences in their supply chain. We helped them reduce end-to-end 20% in terms of the whole lifecycle costs of the way that they interacted with their devices on the supply chain. We put it in such a way that we use both big data and Internet of Things type technology in order to track all of these inventory on an ongoing basis. This has helped them transform the way that they take the value proposition to their customers, how they encourage their customers to work more with Airbus, to see their airlines as a virtualization of the way that the clients are going to interact with the airline. This really excites the airline industries because they too are wanting to give a different customer experiences. We all as travelers have varying degrees of satisfaction with the way that we get around the place. Certainly I know in India there are many challenges to the transport system in India, and we can feel a real change when either whatever transport solutions come to us improve even in a slight way. And that's what the airline industries are challenged with, and that's some of the things that we help them with. Another great case is we work with La Caixa Bank in Spain. La Caixa has a great track record of being one of the most customer-centric banks, retail banks in Spain. It has a great reputation for continuing its innovation. And one of the things that it did is it did a study with all of its end customers. Customers interacting with the banks, with the retail banks, with their ATMs, and they said to the customers, what would help you feel better about interacting with us as a bank? What are the things that we could help? They did a very wide-ranging study, and they kindly invited Fujitsu in to be part of that study. As a technology provider to them over many years, they understood that we were really interested in seeing how we could help them transform their business to the next level. One of the things that they found is that customers had a varying degree of satisfaction with the way that they interacted with people in the bank, the way that they interacted with ATMs, and the way that they interacted on online services. And what they found is that certain sectors of their population, certain sectors of their customer base, felt that the bank was really not doing enough to deliver all of those services in a consistent way, no matter where they interacted with the bank. So one of the things that they found for the customer is they wanted a very simple touch feel to the way that they interacted with the bank. Some of their disabled customers wanted to say, well, you know, I have to go into a branch in order to do things, but why am I disadvantaged if I'm a disabled customer? Why, if I have short-sightedness, can I not interact with what everybody else is interacting with? So they wanted to create equality, serving the diverse set of customers that they had. So one of the things that we did is we took all of this data from their customer study. We looked at what are the best ways that we can interact with the mass of customers that they had. One of the things that customers talked about, and I'm sure in India you would also experience this, the way that ATMs behaved in the past was very simplistic, a very simplistic interface, and sometimes very cumbersome, very slow, and not easy to use. If you can imagine being, for a moment, somebody who's partially sighted, using ATMs is actually quite a challenge. So what Fujitsu did is we sat down, we looked at some of the in-car technology that we used. We looked at the way that we designed keyboard devices. We looked at the way that we use palm vein security. We looked at the way that we use display technology. And we came up with an interaction. We said to Lakeisha is, perhaps we can design a brand new ATM that put all of the services that the bank has at its disposal through one interface. And including an interface that could actually count deposits, count cash transactions in a simplistic way. Before they had to go into the bank and do that, and they didn't want to do that. They just wanted to be very quick and interact with it. So we came up with a next generation ATM in collaboration with the Caixa Bank. We used our manufacturing facility that was in Malaga that was actually specialized in automotive manufacturing. And through that interface, we worked with the bank in all the security aspects of ATMs and came up with a brand new ATM solution. That ATM solution over the last 18 months has been rolling out in Spain with an unprecedented positive feedback for La Caixa's customers. And they said that that whole attention to detail about the user interaction with the bank is changing the way that people feel about the bank, it's changing the way that loyalty is perceived. We think that's a great example of how to listen, how to use technology in an innovative way to change a customer experience. The next one is something that anybody living in a great urban population like Delhi will understand. Traffic and moving traffic around any country, any large urban environment is a massive logistical challenge, is a massive challenge for infrastructure. Fujitsu worked with the Tokyo Metropolitan Transport Authority to look at ways in which we could take data from moving traffic and help optimize the flow. Anybody who looks at the statistics for congestion will see that economies lose billions of dollars of revenue just through congestion alone. Fujitsu had certain sensor technology, and we had certain large, big data analytical solutions in our middleware that we combined together. Basically, what we did is we introduced a sensor technology that got incorporated into taxis, into buses, into public transport in a variety of ways. Now, obviously, if you consider that public transport is actually at the heart of everything that is moving in a city. We used that information and collected data, and we fed that data into the central control, the traffic light monitoring systems and the pollution environment systems, and basically gave data back to the metropolitan authorities that allowed them to optimize the flow, that allowed them to use new urban design for the next generation of roads or the next generation of public transport, that feed us into an intelligent transport solution of the future. Again, a great ecosystem that worked for Tokyo. But another great thing that happened out of that is that we have a great relationship with Toyota as a manufacturer. Toyota, as challenged by many of the automotive industries, are looking at their next generation of products. Obviously, they're challenged with the impact they have on the environment. They're challenged with coming up with new innovative ways that reduces the carbon footprint and impact that cars have on society. Now, obviously, changing the way that cars are maintained and fueled throughout their travels is a bit of a challenge. If you're moving away from hydrocarbons and you're moving into next generation clean technology, there's some real challenges in that. Toyota has come up with a fuel cell that drives their cars on hydrogen. Now, that's great. It's a great innovation. But how can they possibly get fuel cells out into the environment in Japan so that people can go to those stations and fill up in the same way? What we did was we combined the ecosystem that we developed for the Tokyo Metropolitan Authority with Toyota and where they were actually had their dealerships and branch offices, and looked at the optimal way in which they could place fuel stations to re-energize their cars. And we did it in a dynamic way such that the economics of them rolling out the solution were controlled. So again, a situation where we're using big data from a public transport system combined with the innovation and technology from a leading car manufacturer to come up with ways in which they can launch new products into the market in a much more safe way. Again, a great example of us listening to the client and finding ways in which we can innovate together to bring new solutions to market. A bit closer to home, we've been working with the State Bank of India for some period of time. Now, as with many of our institutional banks in whichever market economy you're, over 20 or 30 years, their IT systems grow in complexity, they grow more, they grow in a number of dimensions. As they launch new services, they replicate lots of data. State Bank of India had approximately 20 IT silos of processes, systems, and infrastructure that were all largely independent, because that was a traditional way that they used to deliver services to the market. But with the growth of the bank, what they were faced with increasingly is they needed information to be integrated across these systems in order to optimize the way that they delivered services to the customers and obviously optimize the profits coming back into the bank. So one of the things that we said to them is, look, we can come up with a private cloud infrastructure solution that we can integrate the legacy systems. We can keep them moving at the pace that is safe and secure for their way of banking. But we can also put you into an accelerated platform that allows you to integrate all of the key data and interfaces from those silos and move you into a next generation, move at a different pace. What we ended up doing was coming up with a big data solution that essentially integrated all these interfaces together and allowed them to really focus on being customer-centric. It doubled the productivity of their in-house end users, and it improved on all of the efficiencies that they delivered the services to their end clients. A really important way in which we combined all of those research items to come up with a new solution, and we continue to innovate in those ways. So, the message from this is at the center of the way that we look at the problem space is that all of this interconnectedness, all of these challenges that are coming is really part of what's becoming a hyper-connected world. People, things, information, processes are all connecting in new ways in which business can realize value, in new ways in which we can better serve our clients. The rate of growth of being interconnected is moving at an unprecedented pace. We talk about Internet of Things. My colleagues and my other keynote presenters will talk in more depth about how this is happening. This is an interesting graph that my colleagues at Fujitsu provided. if you can look at the rate of progression in terms of the number of things that are being integrated, the number of things that are being interconnected. So by 2010, we had over 10 billion devices that were integrated together. The expectation is that by 2020, we will have over 50 billion integrated things. Now, a colleague recently asked me, is that, in the hardware world, things may be slowing down. But the rate at which things are being interconnected, the volume of data which is coming out of it, the need to process that data is being ever more challenging. So this rise of connection, this way the Internet of Things, this way that big data is challenging the way that we think about business, is an important concept that we in Fujitsu are trying to help ourselves understand, and in turn help understand with our clients to move them to the next generation of products and services. Again, a key concept in the way that we think about this is a need for businesses to think about the digital assets they have. The way that digitalization is going to transform the way that they think about their business is going to make them competitive, and if they can't see this horizon, it represents a major threat to them. Seeing the way that services, products, processes, and things will actually change the way that people are thinking about their business is a new role for IT. It's the new challenge space that we face. And I think if we can get hold of some of that, we can really excite our customers to protect their current business and also diversify and transform into new businesses. So this change is coming. And this change is coming at a pace, as you saw from the growth in interconnected things, at an unprecedented rate. We're all going to need the agility to deal with this change in new ways. We can't hide from it. So one of the things that we think about this is about the change in the business paradigm. We can't think anymore about our businesses as purely an industrial era. The way in which we can get our assets focused and the way in which we scale up our businesses is changing. We see all the time new innovations come into the market from small startups that are changing the way that we think about things. My son, for example, recently joined a marketing agency. And that marketing agency is not a traditional marketing agency. They only do online stuff. They only do the analytics from social media, from Google Ads, and so on. But they're helping optimize retail customers and the way that they get to market, the hit rates that they get through online services. As a person who's been in the IT industry for 30 years, he started to talk to me about some of the things that he was doing. I couldn't understand them, right? And I think if we look in ourselves, the rate and change that people are coming up with, the innovation that is coming out of the way of new digital business models is going to be a real challenge and a real opportunity for businesses who can embrace it. We really think the key to the thought process here is putting people at the center of the way you think about things. How people use new technology, how people innovate with that new technology, how people collaborate with new technology. This is a key driver for our future. We think that if we build technology in a way that really brings people into it, allows people to easily exploit it, and allows people to convince their customers, their superiors, their end users, their peer groups, that there are new ways to think about business models, that's the most exciting thing. So 3 facets of this: people, information, and infrastructure. The human empowerment, this thing about making people feel much more enabled, much more capable of changing the way that things work or changing the way that business happens, is really key. The connected infrastructure, being able to scale it seamlessly, transparently, is a big challenge for our industry. But it's something that is almost within our grasp. All of this leads to the ability to create new things, to take intelligent ways of dealing with that data, dealing with new data and alien data in an unprecedented way, gives massive potential to new business models. So we see this roadmap, we see this journey as being something in which we can really focus on. We can really start to bring innovation to our customers in an unprecedented way, in an innovative way, in something that differentiates us from our competition. The individual sits at the center of it. That empowerment of the individual is key. The aggregation of that individual power into the way that enterprises exploit it, into the way that enterprises collaborate together is really important. But there's a social value to that. You know, companies understand the need to be socially responsible, understand the need to be responsible business, because that leads to a better society. We saw from the banking collapse all sorts of consequences of poor behavior. But now with all of these interconnected things, we see ways in which we can be responsible together, and we understand those things beyond just the need to be competitive. So that vision of a human-centric intelligent society is the end of that journey, is the end of what that roadmap is about. What we're also seeing is that obviously all of these things exist in certain types of ecosystems. One that is quite tangible is starting to become realized in certain small areas, but is increasingly a potential on a worldwide scale, is this thing about the digital ecosystem for well-being. We understand the role of research, we understand the role of technology, we understand what pharmaceuticals are trying to do, we understand how lifestyle support is becoming more meaningful for the way that we balance between our work and our lives, and our home lives. But that also leads to really important things in the public and social infrastructure. You know, the cost of hospitals, the cost of healthcare, the taking care of the elderly in a considered way, in a way that is economically viable. All of these things are starting to become enabled through new digitalization and a different business model. That's the potential of it. You can view this in a number of ways. The well-being of individuals comes in all sorts of facets, right? We talked about mobility. As somebody who's just, in 18 months ago, moved to Bangalore, I can't wait for a stress-free mobility experience. Traveling around Bangalore or Delhi is a big challenge. So I see actually doing that in a way, here is the potential that we create. And it feeds through many things, the way that these things are interconnected, the way that government has to consider these things through all of its social and environmental policies. Is really important in the way that we say that we are actually helping people on that journey to realize a better society. So part of that challenge in enterprise is, if we look at just the standard template for the way that we invest in technology, you know, we see that there's a big challenge in certain gaining efficiencies in the way that we deal with economies, the way that we deal with our businesses today. You know, we spend about 67%, on average, we spend about 67% in running our businesses. We put 20% into growth, and we put 13% into transformation. We see that we're going to have to start thinking about that differently. We need to make it very much more simple to run our businesses. We need to put more investment in looking forward at the challenges and experimenting with the ways that we can serve our customers better and we can build our businesses in a safer way. Fujitsu brings together a set of portfolio and products that we want to talk to our customers about. Core to that are things like mobility, big data, and security. Mobility, because that interconnectedness is something which we are all experiencing at an unprecedented rate. Making sure that people have access to the things they need to while they're on the move, making sure that their businesses can be mobile, making sure people can actually interact with things that they need to at a touch is really important. Pulling in the data from all of the different sources and actually making that as a better individual experience is critically important. But again, a challenge in that is the more that we make information available, the more we put at risk the individuals. So this balance of creating a secure environment is critically important. Cloud is an enabler for making all of these resources available. But we need to make sure that we do that in a way that is truly scalable. It's a simplicity. It's something that businesses don't have to make such a big risk for themselves, something that we can do to help them. We need to make sure that we continue to scale the ability to compute all this data and to make it in a way that such that we can define the interfaces in real time. Historically, we've tended to look at things in a rather fixed sense. In IT terms, we think of things in terms of a very specific set of uses. We think of them being rigid. We think of them being so well defined as to not be changeable. But we see this people-centric aspect of being something that is more about engagement, more about how do we interact with things, more about changing scale on a dynamic basis, using intelligence from different data sources, using it in an unstructured way without having to define interfaces, once defining them in real time and using it in a much more dynamic fashion throughout our businesses. We see these two things as ways in that you need to contrast these worlds to see the opportunities in full flow. So one of the concepts that we're building on is this whole thing of a digital business platform. Looking at the way that we can integrate our technologies together such that we make it easy for people to go on that journey, make it easy for our clients to understand how our technology can bring together and integrate all these things. Looking at the way that different industries can combine information and looking at how we can support clients to go through that journey more rapidly. That's the challenge and that's the opportunity we see in business today. So, we are looking to be an innovation partner. We are looking to build the trust with you that really blends your experience and your expertise with the way that Fujitsu can help you on that journey, the way that Fujitsu can take you to the next level, the way that we can help India be a more successful economy. But we can't do this alone. And one of the things that I want to thank all the customers in India is helping us on that fantastic growth journey, but also thanking our partners to make sure that we can put on great events like this and we can collaborate in an unprecedented way. Because the market opportunity is so large, the challenges are so diverse, we need the best thinking teams on the planet to work with us. And it's great to have many of our partners be part of the Fujitsu World Tour. So that's a close for me. This innovation in action is really where we want to end up. Building that human-centric intelligent society is a great vision that Fujitsu has. And it's a great vision we want to share with India. Thank you very much.